again, everybody. Welcome to the Southern's playoff pigskin picks. I'm Scott Meese with Les Winkler and Pete Spittler. We're going to talk about a handful of the games for our teams in the Southern's coverage area. Let's get it rolling here. Johnson City at DuQuoin. This is going to be a little bit interesting. Both of the Indians playing each other. Probably a good draw for Johnson City as far as they don't have to go very far, but DuQuoin's pretty tough. What are your thoughts on this one, Les?
This is really a matchup I hadn't even thought of. I just, for whatever reason, it didn't occur to me that these two teams would meet. It is an interesting matchup. It's always interesting when a diamond team, black diamond team, plays a river-to-river team. Johnson City's had some success in these matchups in the past, it seems.
They played them well. I think it was a one-touchdown loss several years ago.
Right.
But now DuQuoin hasn't been in 2A, so now they dropped down.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Just given the step up of quality of competition that DuQuoin plays, I think you have to go with that group of Indians.
Pete?
I concur. Obviously, DuQuoin dropping down to 2A is a bit of a huge story. I mean, it's been rumored to happen for the last couple of years, but DuQuoin always seemed to be getting stuck in 3A, and now here they are in 2A with the opportunity to make some noise, and against the Johnson City team, like Les said, hasn't played the same type of competition that DuQuoin has had. Is there room for an upset? Of course. I mean, it's Johnson City. It's a very traditional program with a lot of success, but given DuQuoin, it's obviously a strength of schedule and athleticism. I got to go with the DuQuoin Indians on this one.
I'm going to go with DuQuoin as well. They play in a much tougher conference. They're going to be bigger, stronger. They can throw the ball. Fred's got a really good arm. Johnson City can hang around and hope to have a chance if they can force some turnovers. I think Murphy forced 5 against DuQuoin last year in that Week 9 game that people mostly thought DuQuoin would win. So I think if Johnson City can get some turnovers, that they'll have a chance. Moving along, Cesar Valier Waltonville Woodlawn takes on Vienna Goreville on the road. They played each other earlier in the season. Vienna won by 3 touchdowns in that game. I think it's an interesting matchup, and Cesar's really on a roll, but Vienna's pretty tough. I got to see them play Johnson City. They're going to pound the football, and Outway does call an interesting game. They do some unusual things, and they can throw it a little bit, but not a whole lot. But I'm going to go with Vienna Goreville in this game.
I agree. I saw Cesar last week. There's some things I like about Cesar. Obviously, Justin Kulik is a very fine football player, big kid, tight end, defensive lineman. I was really impressed with Eric Whitkus, the quarterback, and
Trey Witches.
Trey Witches, and Derek Hood is a solid running back. Having said that, Vienna Goreville is pretty sound on both sides of the football. They're big kids. They're strong kids. I like the offense they run. It really seems to suit them. And if Vienna Goreville gets the lead, Cesar's going to have a hard time getting the ball back.
Pete?
Obviously, like you mentioned, it's a very intriguing matchup. 2 diamond teams going at it. And with Vienna Goreville, not only their first playoff game, first time hosting a playoff game, and like you mentioned, Cesar is a much different team now, but at the same point, I gotta go with Vienna Goreville. There's got an advantage in coaching there, and I feel with all the emotion that this game is going to be wrapped up in, I think that they'll be extremely excited for this football game. I gotta go with Vienna Goreville.
All right, and then in the matchup that most people are talking about, just because of who's playing in it, Belleville Althoff out of the South 7 loses their multiplier and drops way down to 2A. And travels to Chester, the undefeated team that really smoked the rest of the Black Diamond this year. Just your thoughts on this one, Les?
If I was the people in Chester, I wouldn't be buying any lottery tickets because that's one of the worst, one of the unluckiest things I've ever seen. The first year the IHSA has dropped the multiplier for football, and they happen to draw Belleville Althoff. So Althoff play against Carbondale, good strong football team. They could be very competitive at 3A. Obviously, they played a schedule that included some teams that were 5 or 6 times bigger than them, and they competed against them. I'm not saying that Chester can't win this game, but it's going to be tough for them. I would love to see the underdog, even though they're seeded number 1. They've got to be practically considered the underdog in this. I would love to see them pull this upset. I just don't think it's going to happen.
And Pete, the undefeated underdogs, that's kind of unusual.
Yeah, it is, and I'm sure there's some Chester fans that sharpen their pitchforks and light their torches for the IHSA on this one. But at the same point, this is not a totally unexpected opponent for Chester. They've known about this for the last 3 or 4 weeks. They've got, I believe, around 5 films on them. They got plenty of points of emphasis, and
They knew about the possibility
yeah,
of this happening for 4 or 5 weeks.
That's what I mean. And at the same point, I like Chester in this role because history loves the underdog, and frankly, I want to see a great underdog victory, which is what this could be. Chester's using that analogy, David and Goliath here, and in that case, sometimes you just need to find the right rocks to use, and I think Chester's got some good ones. And you know what? I like the Yellow Jackets in this one. I think they're preparing well. I think they're preparing for the right way. And it's at home, which plays a big difference. And with it being a night game, you might get a large crowd in there, and then who knows what could happen.
Althoff is playing schools, that they're used to playing, which are 5A schools in the South 7. Their offense isn't the greatest, but they're big on both sides of the ball with a lot of athleticism. I think Althoff wins this one probably going away. The best we can hope for is that Chester can make a game out of it, and maybe they can. So, we'll see. Wrapping things up with Marion out of the South 7 Conference. They're going up to Chatham-Glenwood. It's an interesting matchup. Chatham plays a tough schedule, I think, out of the Springfield area, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on this one, Les?
It's not an easy draw for Marion. Chatham-Glenwood has historically been a strong program through the years. Historically, have advanced well through the playoffs. Kind of an interesting Marion team this year. Seems like they kind of switched identities a little bit late in the season. It's a long travel game. I just see Marion having a hard time up there. I'm going to go with the Redskins.
I like Marion this one. Like you mentioned, it's kind of tough to get a read on them because at times they look like world beaters, and other times they kind of struggle with some opponents. But then again, coming back the way they did against Normandy and Henry Jones getting over 300 yards. So the offensive firepower is there. It just comes down to execution, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And I like Marion Wildcats in this one.
I'm going to go with Chatham-Glenwood. I think they play a tough schedule. They've got some good athletes. I think Marion could win this game, but if they do, Lewis is going to have to throw for well over 200 yards, spread it all around the field. I don't think Henry Jones and Marion can win it by just trying to run the ball. But Marion's proven they can pass the ball, so hopefully they can stick around and possibly get a big win there. But I think Chatham-Glenwood would just be too much. All right, folks, that about wraps it up for this week. And join us back here next week, and we'll talk about round 2 of the playoffs. Thanks for watching.
Survivors Edition.